Most players may be wondering, what are currently the best teams in Honkai Star Rail? Today, I'll be going over my top picks, and when picking these teams, I considered their endgame performance in all 3 game modes, how the team performs against most bosses in HSR, and also picking teams that use different characters and supports. Starting off with our first team, Mono Remembrance, consisting of Castorice, Evernight, Hyacinth, and Cyrene. Beginning with Castorice, she is an HP scaling damage dealer who revolves around her new bud mechanic, which she gains new bud whenever allies gain or lose HP, and once new bud reaches 100%, she can use her ultimate to summon Netherwing and deal massive damage onto enemies. Castorice also has self buffs in her kit that further improve Netherwing's damage output and is able to drain allies' HP when using her skill, resulting in more new bud. Now, when it comes to the other allies on this team, they help with further improving Castorice's damage output and gaining new bud. Hyacinth is not only going to be able to provide healing and debuff cleansing for the team, but also deal considerable damage herself. Hyacinth is going to be able to provide frequent healing for the team through her skill, ultimate, and Little Ika. And with the After Rain state from Hyacinth's ultimate, Little Ika will immediately obtain 1 extra turn and automatically use Rain Cloud's Time to Go after Hyacinth uses an ability, contributing nicely to her damage output. Now, as to why this matters for Castorice, the frequent healing from Hyacinth will nicely assist with generating more new bud for her. Another perk worth noting is that Hyacinth's After Rain state from her ultimate will increase all allies' max HP, and this buff will last for 3 turns. All of the characters on the Mono Remembrance team are HP scaling, so the After Rain state will benefit all of them when it comes to their damage output. Now, as for what Evernight provides, she'll be able to provide buffs for the team, self buffs, and dish out frequent damage. Her Memo Sprite is Eevee, and she revolves around her Memoria mechanic. She will gain Memoria when she or an ally Memo Sprite uses an ability. Whenever Evernight or Eevee lose HP, when Eevee uses their Memo Sprite skill, Remembrance Whirling Like Rain, and so on. And once Evernight reaches 16 or more Memoria, Eevee will immediately take action and use their Memo Sprite ability Dream Dissolving as due, which will deal damage based on the current amount of Memoria in possession, and afterward, all Memoria and HP will be consumed and Eevee disappears. You can resummon Eevee through Evernight's skill or ultimate, and as for how this synergizes with the rest of the team, since Evernight gains Memoria from losing HP, Castorice being able to drain the HP of allies assists with gaining more Memoria for Evernight. Castorice will also benefit from Eevee consuming all of their HP from their Memo Sprite skill, Dream Dissolving as due, as this generates more new bud for Castorice. Now, on top of this, Evernight also provides buffs for the team, being that Evernight will be able to boost all allies' Memo Sprite crit damage, and during the Darkest Riddle state from her ultimate, all enemies are afflicted with 30% vulnerability, which will increase the damage enemies receive. Overall, Evernight is able to synergize very well with the other Remembrance characters on the team, provide buffs, and deal massive damage herself. Now for the final team member, we have Cyrene. Cyrene revolves around her Recollection mechanic and is also able to give unique buffs to each Chrysos heir. Hyacinth, Castorice, and Evernight will be able to nicely generate points of Recollection for Cyrene, as Cyrene gains Recollection when allies or Memo Sprites with Future take action. And Memo Sprites' Future cannot be consumed, meaning Memo Sprites can continuously gain more points of Recollection for Cyrene. Cyrene will also gain Recollection from her skill and basic attack as well, and once she has 24 points, she can use her ultimate for the first time in battle, activate all allies' ultimates, and she can provide unique buffs for each Chrysos heir on the team. Then after her first ultimate, she will only need 12 points of Recollection to use her ultimate again, which allows her to apply a buff to an ally or attack enemies. As for the unique buffs she'll provide for each of our members on the Mono Remembrance team, Castorice's buff will allow her to overflow new bud to 200%, and this overflow will increase the damage multiplier of Netherwing's ability Wings Sweep the Ruins. And the damage multiplier will additionally increase if there are 2 or fewer enemies on the field. So this will further increase Castorice's damage output if your new bud did overflow, and then on top of that, this also helps out with her single target damage as well, since the damage multiplier will increase if there are 2 or fewer enemies on the field. As for what Hyacinth will receive, Cyrene's buff for Hyacinth will regenerate energy for Hyacinth, and additionally increase the healing value of Little Ika's Memo Sprite skill. As for Evernight, the damage dealt by Eevee's Memo Sprite's skill, Dream Dissolving is Due, will increase. Crit damage boost provided by Evernight's skill will increase. And now after Evernight uses her skill or ultimate, she'll additionally gain 1 Memoria. All of these buffs that Cyrene is able to provide will further strengthen the Mono Remembrance team. On top of each of these buffs, Cyrene's Zone from her skill will also provide true damage for the entire team, and she'll be able to increase all allies' damage dealt as well. Overall, these 4 characters heavily synergize with one another and are able to unleash powerful frequent attacks in each endgame mode. Next up, we have Elation Teams, the new archetype in version 4.x. Elation is currently a growing archetype that features Yaogong, Sparksy, Evanescia, Silverwolf level 999, and Elation Trailblazer. Yaogong being the first Elation character to release and being a premium support for Elation Teams, as she provides Elation for teammates, ult-type Res Pen, inflicts a vulnerability debuff onto enemies, gains 1 skill point when using her Elation skill, and most importantly, when she uses her ultimate, she will trigger Aha Instant with a fixed punchline of 20. This allows all Elation characters on the team to use their Elation skills more often, gain more Certified Banger, and helps with Certified Banger uptime on your characters. More Elation skills results in more damage output from the team. Yaogong is a great support for Evanescia or Silverwolf teams. Evanescia benefits from the additional Aha Instant as she gains more Certified Banger, which then results in more energy for her, as Evanescia gains energy when she gains Certified Banger and vice versa. And why this is so important is that Evanescia's ultimate is a huge source of her damage output, and Evanescia can take advantage of the additional buffs Yaogong provides as well. And as for Silverwolf, this helps with gaining more MMR, which is her gameplay mechanic, in order to use her ultimate to enter the God Mode player state, as well as improve her damage output during this state based on how much MMR she has. Sparksy will be able to provide more MMR for Silverwolf as well, since she can nicely generate punchline for the team by using the team's skill points. 1 punchline results in 1 MMR for Silverwolf. Sparksy will be able to also buff the team's crit damage, and on top of this, based on the amount of Elation characters on the team, she'll be able to gain more thrill and punchline when using her ultimate if there are 3 or more Elation characters. Thrill will allow Sparksy to offset skill point consumption, resulting in her being able to further buff her enhanced basic attack with her skill. Sparksy will also be able to deal considerable damage herself alongside Silverwolf. Trailblazer will increase an ally's Elation through their ultimate, inflict a vulnerability debuff onto enemies when using their Elation skill, and when they use their ultimate on an ally, it'll increase their crit damage and allow them to immediately use their Elation skill, taking a fixed amount of 20 punchline into account. Elation Trailblazer will also help generate Certified Banger for Silverwolf as well as Evanescia, which once again, in the case of Evanescia, this also assists with her getting more energy. Silverwolf and Evanescia both have different playstyles, Silverwolf revolving around her MMR mechanic and her enhanced basic attacks during the God Mode player state, while Evanescia revolves around dealing frequent damage with her ultimate as she gains energy each time she gets Certified Banger, resulting in her being able to reach high amounts of Certified Banger as well as generating frequent energy to unleash her ultimates. The Elation teams are currently performing very well in endgame and also have room to improve in the future, as we still don't have an Elation sustain. And if you are currently investing in Elation teams, I would recommend keeping your eye out for whenever the Elation sustain does release. Next up, we have break teams, specifically with Firefly. In 3.8, break teams received a game-changing teammate, the Dahlia. The Dahlia greatly improved the performance of break teams with the numerous buffs she can provide. One of the most important buffs being that she can allow the team to deal super break damage onto enemies without them being weakness broken. Being able to always deal super break damage regardless if an enemy is broken or not improved the damage consistency of the team. As without the Dahlia, if an enemy was not weakness broken, the team's damage output would drastically decrease. On top of this, the Dahlia also increases the weakness breaking efficiency of the team by 50%, meaning that now the team will also decrease toughness meters at a faster rate, and increased toughness reduction also improves super break damage. These 2 benefits are just from her skill zone alone, and when it comes to the rest of her kit, she can reduce enemies' defenses and implant the element of herself and the dance partner onto enemies with her ultimate. The defense reduction allows the entire team to deal more damage onto enemies, and the implant is useful to guarantee that the enemy's toughness meters can be reduced by the Dahlia as well as the dance partner's element. On top of this, the Dahlia can also unleash a follow-up attack, and she will be able to assist with recovering skill points through this, which is great for Firefly as Firefly wants to continuously use her skill. So the extra skill point is useful for the team's skill point usage. When it comes to Firefly in particular, the Dahlia provides additional benefits that she can nicely utilize. The Dahlia's trace, Outgrow the Old and Spouse the New, will increase the speed of an ally who implants weakness onto an enemy. And if that ally is a fire character, the attack will deal 20 fixed amounts of fire toughness reduction after the attack and regenerate energy equal to 10% of their max energy. This helps Firefly be able to use her skill right after she exits the complete combustion state and re-enter the state through her ultimate. With all of these benefits, the Dahlia greatly assisted break-centric teams, and for Firefly in particular, this was taken a step further with her Nova Flare buffs in version 4.2. Firefly and the Dahlia being able to implant fire weakness is great for modes like APOC, and Firefly's buff to her implant applying to one enemy and adjacent enemies helps with her pure fiction performance as well. As a result, Firefly and the Dahlia have been performing very well in endgame content. Next up, we have Archer, a character who revolves around consuming skill points in order to repeatedly use his skill up to 5 times in a row, and Archer is able to unleash massive single target damage onto enemies. His ultimate deals massive damage onto an enemy and allows him to gain 2 charges, and Archer's charges from his talent allow him to unleash a follow-up attack whenever an ally attacks an enemy, and this will allow Archer to recover 1 skill point as well. Archer also increases the maximum skill point limit by 2, and after allies gain skill points, if there are 4 or more, it'll increase Archer's crit damage by 120% for 1 turn. Archer benefited from Sparkle's Nova Flare buffs in version 4.0, as Sparkle is able to increase Archer's crit damage, ult-type wristband, advance Archer forward by 50%, inflict vulnerability onto enemies, increase all allies' attack, and on top of that, increase the max skill points of the team by 2. And she can recover 6 skill points with her ultimate and hold on to these excess skill points. All of these buffs benefit Archer's damage output and provide more comfortability for his playstyle. And at the current moment, Archer also has versatility with his 3rd slot, being that you can use RMC, Tribby, Silverwolf, Cypher, and so on. Archer will also have the opportunity to get stronger in the near future as well, further improving his endgame performance. And now we have Asheville, who has a strong synergy with the recently released Blade. Asheville is a character who revolves around his powerful single target damage, frequent follow-up attacks, team-wide buffs, and so on. Asheville will be able to reduce all enemies' defenses if bait exists on the field. And when Asheville is on the field, all crit damage dealt by allies will increase by 40% and further increase by an additional 80% for allies' follow-up attack. Asheville can also buff his follow-up attacks through his Gluttony mechanic, which he will gain Gluttony from his skill, ultimate, his follow-up attacks, defeating enemies through his follow-up attack, and Gluttony can stack up to 12 points. Asheville will be able to unleash follow-up attacks with his charge mechanic, and after an ally attacks an enemy marked as bait, Asheville will consume 1 charge and unleash a follow-up attack onto that enemy. When it comes to his charge mechanic, he can hold up to 3 charges, and he gains these charges through his ultimate, which will be able to deal damage onto an enemy and mark them as bait, and then Asheville will unleash an enhanced follow-up attack against the bait and gain 3 charges. The enhanced follow-up attack will not consume charge, and when this follow-up attack deals a killing blow, it will continue to deal damage to a new bait until Gluttony becomes lower than 4 stacks. This is very powerful with multiple mobs on the field, as Asheville's follow-up attack can defeat multiple enemies this way. And on top of this, Asheville has a way to gain energy from allies, which is whenever allies attack the enemy marked as bait, Asheville will gain energy. So frequent attackers will benefit Asheville's playstyle and allow him to use his ultimate and follow-up attacks more often. As for Blade, he nicely synergizes with Asheville, as Blade will be able to further reduce enemies' defenses, increase the damage they receive, increase the damage dealt by allies, and unleash frequent attacks himself through his charge mechanic. Whenever allies attack enemies, or when enemies attack Blade, he will gain 1 point of charge. And once he reaches 9, he'll unleash an extra skill and regenerate 25 energy. Blade will benefit from frequent attackers on the team, such as Asheville, Tribby, and so on. Both of their kits synergize with one another when it comes to being able to inflict debuffs onto enemies, inflicting frequent attacks, which assists Asheville's energy gain as well as Blade's, and they currently perform excellently in endgame, For pure fiction, Astro's follow-up attack can help with mobs, and Blade is able to dish out frequent AoE attacks from the rest of the team's attacks and enemies attacking Blade. And there's also room for this team to further improve in the future depending on what future synergies we may end up getting. Now when it comes to version 4.4, we will be getting Himiko Nova, Gilgamesh, and Ren. And depending on how their kits fully turn out, there is the possibility of them also being top teams in Honkai Star Rail alongside the current teams on this list, which I'll be able to discuss this closer to their release. Now, I'd love to know on your account, which team is your personal favorite? Which team have you invested the most in? And lastly, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe to see some more content from me. I will be discussing Himiko, Rin, Gilgamesh very soon as we are approaching to the new live stream. And lastly, I hope all of you have a great day. Peace.